Hello, hello.
Hi, Junji. How are you?
I'm very good, thanks. How are you doing?
Doing well. Excited for another podcast episode.
Absolutely. So here we are. Welcome, everybody. We are the Own It or Quit It podcast. And this episode is going to digest some pretty big words. So the name of the episode is Finding Your Purpose. Well, big words, right? Purpose. Kind of heavy even sometimes. It puts pressure on us when we talk about purposes. At least this is how we kind of discussed it when we were thinking about what to talk about today. Before we dive in, tell me, what do you feel and think when you hear the word purpose?
Yeah, Junji, I think purpose always comes with a lot of weight because it feels like you've had some big enlightenment. You have this full understanding of yourself, and now you're completely in tune with your emotions, your behaviors, and now it's all driven into your career. And I think the reality is that we're always on a journey to find our purpose. I don't know if we ever fully achieve our purpose. I think we get closer and closer as we have lived experiences, right? So I think the first thing I would tell our audience is don't let it become a daunting topic. Don't let it become bigger than it is. Really, what it is it's passion. It's finding what excites you, what you feel naturally fits with your strengths, but then also delivers a sense of I've accomplished something more than just finishing a presentation or a project. This connects to something bigger than me, right? And I think all of us, when we get out of bed, we're hoping that we're living our purpose and we're doing something more meaningful than just simply going about our day. So I think that's it, right? I think it's releasing the tension, releasing the stress, but then really diving into what does it mean, purpose, and how do you find it within your career?
Yeah, absolutely. And do you think it's an age thing? Is it like gardening that you need to pass a certain age to really kind of fall in love with it?
I think traditionally people would probably assume that, oh, you need to wait until later in life until you have this big enlightenment that you have your purpose, or maybe it's, you have some sort of big epiphany. I don't know. I think with the newer generation, there's a sense of purpose right out of the gate for a lot of people, right? Whether it's sustainability,
Yeah.
climate change, giving back to society. There's a lot of purpose-driven, kind of thinking within every generation. And I think what we're probably noticing is that people earlier in their career probably have even more clarity about their purpose than maybe previous generations. I think previous generations, work was seen as you go in, you come out, and then you go home, and then you take care of your responsibilities, and then you go to bed and you do it again and again. And I think, some of the younger generations are teaching us that from day one, you could be very clear what your purpose is and almost demand that of corporate America and companies.
Wow, that's a very interesting thought. And I love to hear from our audience what they think. So, guys, leave a comment for us what you think. Is this something that for the younger generations is actually becoming increasingly important? What do you think? All right, but I wanted to get us to another topic in the when we talk about purpose. So you're a marketeer. You come from the world of marketing, and brands talk all the time about purpose. So tell me a little bit about how does that work, brands and
Yeah.
purpose?
To be very, very honest, I'm one of those people that have worked with brands that are trying to drive purpose and action, trying to create this elevated connection with consumers. And I think it's incredibly valuable. I think what we've seen over the last 2 to 3 years is that perhaps purpose has been overused by brands, right? Because ultimately, when we think about why brands are even doing purpose-driven work, it's to build more meaningful connections with their consumers. So yes, you might be selling cereal, you might be selling toothpaste, but you want to deliver the higher order benefit. They call that in marketing, which simply means, okay, you're using the product, but what's the bigger emotional benefit that you get from using this product? And I think originally it was around joy and things like that. And then everyone started deciding that, well, I need to make sure it's purpose driven to build a more meaningful connection with consumers. So it was always intended to be something very positive. I think what's happened now is that when you see every brand that you ever interact with have some sort of higher order purpose, you start to feel like, well, is it diminished? If every brand is doing it,
Mm,
is it not special anymore? And I think, it's an interesting question. And I think it's a little, provocative, right? Because as a marketer, I dream and I love to have brands that have this amazing purpose. But, I've also worked in the space of digestive health where we're talking about, guts and those type of things. And it's very functional, right? And yes, you want to relieve your gas symptoms and things like that. But is there a higher purpose to that? Sure. Maybe more meaningful dates and connections with people where it's not, self-conscious about some of those digestive issues. But I think at the other end of it is sometimes consumers are saying, look, I just have a symptom. I just want a product that works. I don't need to know if you have a deeper emotional connection. I just want to know if your product works. So I think for every brand, they need to have a little bit of self-awareness and understand what does my brand or what do my consumers think of my brand? Do they expect me to have this kind of big emotional purpose connection, or am I simply a functional product that helps them day in, day out, right? Am I a bowl of cereal or am I the spark that ignites their day and starts them on the right foot, right? And I think sometimes consumers are skeptical when too many brands are saying, well, I create this big emotional space. So I think rightfully so, consumers are probably a little tired of purpose, or maybe, looking a little bit deeper. Okay, you're saying that, but what are you doing? So, maybe to close out the topic, what I would think is if you're a brand and you're trying to develop purpose, be more than a sentence, be more than a
mhm,
statement, do something with your actions, right? So, consumers want to see where are you spending your money? Who are you working with? Where is the profits going? Is it if it's simply a beautiful TV commercial or a beautiful digital social media message, that's one thing. If you're doing some more with your actions, I think it shows a little bit more I'm standing behind the purpose and I'm standing behind it as a brand. I think the ones that are just talking
mhm.
it and not doing the walk, I think consumers see through it now.
Fascinating. So I have one more question around this. So is this whole purpose work that marketers do around brands, is this for them internally to kind of give some sort of anchor for all the work around the brand? Or
Yeah.
is this for external communication? So
Yeah.
where is it important?
I do think that it's both. I think for many companies, they do have genuine missions and purposes at a corporate level. And then the brands that are in those companies, they want to be able to support that bigger company brand. So there is a genuine interest in brands wanting to develop it. I would say that when I've developed and built teams, the marketers behind the brands, they also want to have a sense of purpose when they come in day in and day out, right? So I think it is a little bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy is that when you have marketeers that want to extract value from the work that they do in, then they do lean into those purposes. And especially if the marketeer aligns personally with the purpose of the brand, it becomes even more powerful because if you really care about whatever the brand stands for individually, you'll work harder to bring that purpose to life for the brand, right? So it's a little cyclical. If you're not that passionate about what the brand is standing for and you don't agree with it, but you work on the brand, I think you'll have a more transactional relationship with the work. You'll do it.
Yeah.
You'll help the brand talk about the purpose. You'll create the assets, but whether or not you find individual purpose and you get passion from that, it's probably not necessarily the case, right? So, I think the ideal situation for all of us is the work that we're doing is also aligned with our individual purpose. And maybe that's how we can kind of get into the next section. And, Jonji, I would love to ask you this question, right? When you went about your career, when did you find your purpose and what does purpose mean to you as an individual?
Well, so I just want to kind of connect back to the beginning of our conversation that on one hand, when I hear the word purpose, I feel an overwhelm, but I also feel like something deeply moves in me. So I think it is an important thing. And if you ask me personally, I feel like I've been looking for this for a long, long time. Um, looking back now, of course, I can connect the dots now, knowing where I am and who I am today. It all makes sense that I was the one in the family who was sitting and listening everybody, who, was so curious about people that I just loved connecting with new people and ask them about their story. Um, at that point, it looked like I'm just avoiding getting into the hard work of studying, but I was studying, but I more enjoyed being with people and connecting and learning their stories. And of course, at that time, I did not know how that's going to help me to become who I am today. But today, I'm a career coach, and that's my business. That's my work. That's my living. And I ask people questions and listen to their stories as my work. And if you ask me when I felt the most in purpose, it's today
Mm.
because I think I'm doing something that I mastered or since I was a child, something that I have a talent around, something that is apparently a valuable thing for others. People want to be heard and seen and want a partner to bounce off ideas with and create an intimate thinking space. And and it looks like that's something I can be paid for. So by the way, these four areas I was just talking through, these are the four buckets that the Japanese concept of ikigai is looking at, which is the kind of way to meaningful, happy life. It's what are the things that you're good at? What are the things that you love doing? The things that the world needs or other needs, and the things you can be paid for. So, yeah, I think this has been, and have I arrived? I kind of feel like I'm very close to it. It's like at this moment, I feel like many boxes are ticked, and I'm very energized by what I'm doing. So this is how I would translate feeling that I'm kind of close to spending my days around what I meant to be doing and something with something that gives me a lot of joy and fulfillment. I think this how I would detect that I'm kind of around my purpose. How about
It's
you?
interesting. Yeah, I was just gonna say it's interesting. It's almost like you've reached your best chapter, right? Which is the name
Oh,
of your
it's
company. And for our
yeah.
audience, Jonji does amazing work, and Best Chapter is the name of that company. And it just sounds very in tune with where you are now, right? You're living your best chapter. That's fantastic.
Absolutely, and thank you so much for the for bringing that in the conversation because indeed, when I opened this chapter of my life, I had this intuition, but aspiration as well, that this is going to be my best chapter. And I thought, wouldn't it be amazing if what I create for myself, that's what the mission and the promise I create for my clients. So best chapter for all.
Fantastic. Yeah, it's very similar for me, right? So I've worked for now 20 years in corporate America and all these amazing projects and things like that. But at the end of the day, what I found the most individual passion from every day was having those one-on-one conversations with my team, developing them, helping them identify what their personal brand is. How do you become a little bit more visible within a very big organization with lots of employees? How do you stand up and showcase yourself. So my purpose driven mission now is to develop the next generation of inclusive leaders. I want to work with these young people to help them understand who they are and how they can stand out in the organization. So the company Diversify is really built around this idea that we can develop the next generation of inclusive leaders. So to your point, all those lived experiences, maybe it starts off as passion and then it becomes purpose a little later.
Fantastic. Love it. Love it. So I think this is a good time to mention that this podcast episode has going to be two parts. So we're gonna wrap up soon this one, and then we're gonna go deeper in the next one. So guys, stay tuned and come back and listen to the next episode. But before we do that, I just wanted to get back to what you said, which is about combining your marketing expertise and bringing it to people and helping them to use the same tools and skills. So can you tell me a little bit more about your company name and why you picked that?
Yeah, I mean, so first of all, diversity, equity, and inclusion has always been a very big part of what I do. And as you know, when I was working in corporate America, I was working on councils and helping leadership develop these programs. When I walked away and decided to start my own company, diversify just means so much more than just ethnicity or differences. It simply means collect all of the different experiences in your life and become better for it, right? So do the things
Mm,
that are uncomfortable. Go and live places that make you uncomfortable. Go get experiences and skills that you never thought you would. And by diversifying everything in your life, you're going to become a better person, right? So the company is diversified for that reason. And, you know, what's really exciting now is that, we have clients, we have all these individuals that are working with us, and we're basically asking them and challenging them to do things differently in their lives. And it's actually opening up a lot of doors. It's opening up a lot of different thinking for them. And at the end of the day, that's what diversifying or
mm.
diversification is. It's not, I think right now, society wants us to think it's just simply the physical differences between us, but actually there's a lot of mental diversity. There's a lot of experiential diversity that's really fantastic. So my job here is to help everyone see that there's more to diversify than meets the eye.
Excellent. Love it. Love it. All right. So, shall we give a little homework to our audience?
Yeah, why not? Yeah.
Okay.
So
So,
maybe you want to walk us through what it is for our folks?
yeah, let's do that. So, we have two questions for you. The question number one is, what do you feel when you hear the word purpose and why? So, you've heard us kind of walking around it. We would be curious to hear what's your view? What do you feel and hear when you hear the word purpose? And the next one is um, when you have seen purpose in action. Um, have you ever seen that it was motivational or meaningful? So can you pick up a story, a situation when you detected that what I'm seeing is actually a really good example for purpose being in action?
Fantastic. And I think what I would say is as you're going through that homework, what you'll realize, and it's going into the next episode, which is matching your talents to your purpose. Once you find that authenticity of purpose, you're going to want to start aligning, okay, now what are my talents and what are my strengths and how do I match it with my purpose? So go through that homework because it'll set you up for our next podcast episode.
Excellent. All right. So see you soon.
See you
Enjoy
soon.
the journaling. Okay. Bye then.